From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans, this is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I am your host, Sean Fazende, riding shotgun as he does each and every podcast. This is Andre Johnson.
Junior.
Do not forget the Junior. It's very important to remember the JR at the end of the name. Before we get into today's content, be sure to like, to share, to rate, to review. If you are watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, get the bell notification for when we drop that fire content. And also, hello to the good folks of the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. Glad you have found us here. By the way, stay tuned. Next week, a lot of programming on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network that you guys will be very, or you should enjoy, especially if you're watching this pod. That will come in due time. All right, it's Friday, Good Friday here. Beautiful day in the city of New Orleans. Holiday weekend, so hope everyone has a happy Easter this weekend. It's going to be a good weekend for myself. It's going to be a busy week next week, so we'll get the little chance to kind of unwind this weekend. And then next week, it is full speed ahead. And here we are. So, Andre, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good because this weekend, it's a big weekend for multiple reasons. Obviously, you've got the Easter thing, good times with family. That's always great. But I've mentioned before on this show that I'm a big WWE guy.
Really?
It's WrestleMania weekend.
Heck
Saturday and Sunday. I already took the day off Sunday. I will be at home on my couch, probably with a bowl of spinach dip, watching WrestleMania.
Sounds like a plan. I'm having a crawfish boil at my house so for Easter Sunday, so that'll be fun. I'll be here Saturday. So it's going to be a good weekend, no doubt about it. It's been an interesting week. We know that. And it's just the world we live in. It's a very strange situation the Saints find themselves in. We have looked at it from every single possible angle. I didn't have a chance to read the comments from Wednesday's pod, but judging by the fact that we had quite a bit of them, I'm sure you guys have a lot of passionate opinions about the situation involving Derek Carr. But here's the thing. We have to take a breather from that saga because it is what it is at this point, and in due time, we will find out the answers, probably at least some form of clarity next week, although I wouldn't hold my breath. In the meantime, there is a draft, and the Saints are in the market for a quarterback. So we're going to reverse roles today, all right? Okay. You normally kind of set me up, and then you kind of follow. Well, today I'm going to set you up, and then I'm going to follow because I got a lot to say about this topic, and you're probably not quite as long-winded as me. So the Saints are in the market for a quarterback. The big picture question we have today is, where do they strike? First round, second round, third round, day 3. Where do the Saints strike? And we're not going to get specific in who it will be, but we can maybe give you sort of a list of names to consider depending on where they pick this quarterback. Because I am going to tell you right now, I am confident in saying the Saints will draft a quarterback next weekend. So take that for what it's worth. All right, big picture topic. Where do they strike, Andre?
I'm going to start off, Sean, with the definition of insanity. The definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And this is a franchise that over the last few years, ever since they've been trying to find the heir to Drew Brees, has been trying the same thing over and over again, starting with good old Garrett Grayson a few years ago, 3rd-round pick. Ian Book, 4th-round pick. Jake Haener, 4th-round pick. Spencer Rattler, 5th-round pick. All mid-round guys with, the potential to maybe be something in the league. We know Garrett Grayson didn't live up to that. We know Ian Book didn't live up to that. Jake Haener has failed to live up to that thus far. And despite what some people may think with Spencer Rattler, so far he has not lived up to that potential yet. Maybe that day will come. We'll get to that maybe a little later in this podcast. But so far, Spencer Rattler has not given you enough reason to believe that he can be the face of your franchise, your starting quarterback for years to come. We've seen the Saints take this strategy of let's, pick somebody in the middle rounds. Let's pick somebody day 2. So I'd like to think that with everything happening, this has got to be the year that the Saints draft a quarterback in round 1. They do something that they haven't done since Archie Manning all the way back in the 70s.
1971.
1971. Whew. That was a long time ago.
Players weren't even at the draft.
Exactly.
You saw it on this station. Garland did an interview with Archie. The players weren't even in the draft.
My mom was barely alive in 1971, and that's the last time they took a quarterback in the first round. So I've got to believe that if you want something to really change in your franchise, because right now the Saints are in a 4-year playoff drought, their longest since 01 to 05. If you want that to change, you know that you're going to need an answer at quarterback. You've got to do what you got to do, and that's take a quarterback in the first round. Now, we know Cam Ward likely going number 1 overall. He won't be there. So the two options that you have at that 9 spot, you've got Shedeur Sanders, you've got Jackson Dart, if both of them are available. Now, I've said New Orleans, or New Orleans, Louisiana on this podcast several times. I'm a big fan of Shedeur. I think he's QB1 in this draft. I would take him at 9th overall. But like you've said before, it comes down to where the Saints have these guys graded. And I think that's where it gets interesting. Not necessarily for Shedeur, because if you have Shedeur graded that high and he falls to 9, you take him, no questions asked. It's interesting for me when it comes to Jackson Dart, because I think Jackson Dart at 9 is a reach. However, if Jackson Dart is your guy, if you've done the research and you think Jackson Dart, if you've got him rated in the top 10, on your board, and you think he's the future face of your franchise, you almost have to reach, because you can try, to maybe trade back, hope he's there in the second round, but then you're taking a big chance that your guy is not there when you had an opportunity to get your guy. So whether it's Shedeur, whether it's Jackson Dart, I think you have to take a chance on quarterback in the first round, because we've seen these middle round guys. We've seen guys like Quinn Ewers. We've seen guys like Will Howard. We've seen guys like Tyler Shuck, guys who all have potential, guys who all have upside, but there's a lot of downside that comes with them. I would not like to see the Saints take another chance on one of those quarterbacks. I want a first-round quarterback, a guy you draft and you point at him and you say, hey, you're the face of this franchise. You're the king of the Crescent City from now on.
It's not a bad belief. It's not a bad desire. Everyone wants that. I think everyone watching wants that. I've said it multiple times. I'm done with the day 3 projects that aren't going to amount to much. I want them to basically find their next franchise quarterback, whether you find most franchise quarterbacks, and that being the first round of the NFL draft. That being said, I am going to stand by my original belief that I shared with you on this pod Wednesday. I do not believe the Saints are taking a quarterback at 9. Just kind of the vibe I'm getting and the feel I'm getting just based off a few conversations I've had, and just the general what they've done. I believe their top 10 only includes one quarterback, and that's Cam Ward. That's what I believe. Don't know that for a fact, but that's what I believe. But let's just say it's all smoke. They purposely didn't go to Shedeur Sanders' pro day to get us all believing they don't like him, whatever. And they're fooling all of us. And they're all in on Shedeur. I think there would be a tell pretty quickly come next Thursday night. If they have a conviction on Sanders as a top 10 player, I believe they wouldn't wait till 9 to get him. I believe, why risk it? They would go up and make that trade with Jacksonville. They would go up and make that trade with New England to jump Las Vegas, to jump the Jets, to take them. Think about it. It would be, to get where you're at with Shedeur to be top 10, I mean, they're saying, he is our guy. Kellen Moore, brand new head coach, offensive mind. Shedeur, you're my guy. Ain't going to wait around. They wouldn't wait around tonight. That's too risky. That's too much live and die. So to me, if there is no trade up early, I think that's a sign. I think that's a sign that they're going to hold off. Because it's too important of a position, and if he's truly a top 10 guy, you go get him. I don't think that's going to happen. Like I said, I think pick 9 comes and goes. Saints grab a player, Ty Warren, Jalen Walker, Will Johnson, whoever. And then the real fun begins, because the quest to get back in the first round begins. This is where people are going to start thinking and looking for the Saints to get back in. And not just them, by the way. New York, Cleveland, if they bypass Shedeur. Count me as one of the many that believe the Saints will try to get back into the first round. But trying to do so and actually pulling it off can be tricky based off compensation. The only real comp that we have with the Saints, I could be wrong on this, but it's the only one I could think of. 2011. Pick 24 comes around, they pick Cam Jordan. The Saints went back into the first round to grab Mark Ingram at pick 28. They had the 56th pick in the second round that year. The trade ended up costing them the second round pick at 56 and the 2012 first rounder, which that year they went 13-3 in 2011, so it was a late first round pick. I believe it was the 28th overall selection, which in turn New England traded at some point to move up, I believe, that year.
Yeah.
So I will ask you, just a quick pause in my monologue here. Mm-hmm. Are you cool with sacrificing next year's one to go back into the first round?
No, because if I'm going to give up next year's one, I'm trading up from 9 and getting that guy early, like you mentioned.
I agree. I am not okay with it because here's why. Different reason, but same outcome. I believe there's a very reasonable chance next year's one is going to be in the top 12.
It could be in the top 1.
It could be top 10. It could be top 8, if not higher. So I don't want to dip into next year's first round pick. Same. And if that's the price to get back into the first round, count me out. But I do think the Saints are going to make some calls, and I do think there are some spots where they can hit later in the first round that does not cost them next year's one. This year, the Saints sit at 40 in the second round. That's very important because in 2011 they were at 56. 40 is the ninth selection or 8th selection in the second round. So what would it cost them to go up 20 with Denver, by the way? 220 with Denver, because Denver sits at 20. Who sits at 21? Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is the most likely candidate to get Shador should he fall. Well, you know our guy in Denver. He ain't trading back, and B, if he is, I'm getting that first round pick next year. Yep. I mean, he likes the Saints, but he loves to be the king and win that deal. So to me, I guess that's possible. That would take that off the table. There's some other key spots. 4 or 5 spots later, 24, 25. This is key, Andre. 24 Minnesota. You brought this up to me. Yep. How many picks do they have? 4. They have 4 picks in this class. So moving back is probably something they would consider because they want a bigger draft class. A 4-man draft class is nothing. So the Saints to go up to 24 would likely cost them the second round pick at 40, third round pick at 71, and maybe one of their day 3 selections. You cool with that? If it means to go back into the first round to get a Jackson Dart or Shador Sanders?
Yeah, for sure.
I think I'd be okay with that too. Texans at 25. Probably the same deal, maybe no day 3 pick. Why 24, 25? Well, 24 Minnesota, I told you, but 25 because 26 the Rams. The Rams, a lot of quarterbacks have been linked to them trading, or selecting a quarterback at 26. Again, very possible that they do that, but that's going to take a lot of work. You can work the phones. You get it or you don't. And look, it's a lot to ask a team to come out of the first round all the way to the 40s, not even in the 30s. So take that for what it's worth. I don't think it's impossible, but I don't think it's going to be easy. I believe the most likely outcome for the Saints in drafting the quarterback will come on day 2, especially if you look at the class as a whole. That's where the value is at this position. You don't have the top end guys, but they do have a lot of guys that will fall into that second, third round grade, depending on how high you want to overdraft to go get them. Maybe they end up in the late first round, or if it's a third round guy, second round. You can do the math. And look at the extensive homework the Saints have done on the prospects. If you really look at it, Tyler Shuck had a top 30. Quinn Ewers had a top 30 in a dinner. They've been, all over Jackson Dart. Who am I missing? Jalen Milroe, private workout. Kyle McCord, private workout. All of those guys, with the exception of Dart, who I believe is going to be one of those teams that trade back in the first round and get him, are all day 2 prospects. In fact, I'm going to make a prediction right here, right now.
Uh-oh.
Bold prediction. I don't like doing this, but I'm going to do it right now.
I'm listening.
I believe the New Orleans Saints will have a quarterback drafted before the third round begins on Friday.
Whew.
That's what I'm saying. Now, listen to my words carefully.
So that means first or second round.
Before the third round begins, and let's just say 40 rolls around, you got to be mindful. Well, the Saints pick at 40. You got to be mindful, as I said earlier, of the Giants and the Browns who are at the top of the round. And there's a lot of chatter about them kind of being in the same boat as the Saints. The grade doesn't match the player. We're going to wait till the next go around because he is still a good player. Maybe not great. Maybe doesn't match the number 2, number 3 overall pick. But at 33 or 34, he's a guy. Now, you got to watch for them because they could be the teams that trade back in because obviously first pick of the second round is better than 8th pick of the second round. Raiders are a couple of picks later. They pick at 40. Is Tyler Shuck, J.Lo Milroe, whoever around that time, or do they move up a few spots to ensure it? I think that's a very reasonable thing that very well could happen. They're not going to leave themselves vulnerable at that position. So when their pick comes around on day 2, you will see them and at least try to be aggressive to go up and get that player. In fact, I will leave it at this. If the Saints leave day 2 of the draft without a quarterback, it will be a massive disappointment for this club. Massive disappointment because you cannot roll into day 3 of this draft with the quarterback room looking like that and no quarterback on your roster from the draft. So to me, you make a move in round 2. I think that's where it's going to happen. Before round 3 begins Friday, the Saints will have a quarterback drafted because it's too big of a deal. It's too important a position. By the way, your new head coach is a former quarterback.
Yeah.
Your offensive coordinator is a quarterback. Former quarterback. So I think they understand the position. They understand the need. They understand how to play the game, look at the board. I think that's where they strike.
Yeah, and I just cannot imagine this team not getting a quarterback that early at all. I'm for picking one at 9, but if you don't pick one in the first 2 days, then you're for sure taking a chance with somebody drafted in the 4th to 7th round, which I went through the names. That hasn't worked for them. Ian Book, 4th round. Jake Haener, 4th round. Spencer Rattler, 5th round. It has not worked for them. And even if you did pick somebody in those rounds, how are you going to go into training camp? It would be a true free-for-all at that quarterback position. Let's just throw a name out there. If they say, hey, let's take Kyle McCord in the 4th round, you're going to bring Kyle McCord, Spencer Rattler, Jake Haener into camp together? Maybe you sign a veteran. Yeah, you're going to sign a veteran. Maybe whether you bring 3 quarterbacks into camp, 4 quarterbacks into camp. I mean, I don't know if that sounds like a lose-lose-lose situation right now for the Saints. So I think that you have to, at some point, go and get your guy, whether it's at number 9. If you think your guy is there at number 9 and that's your guy, you get him. It's a risk trading back into the first round because, like you mentioned, just like the Saints would want to move back and say, hey, Shador's falling. Hey, Jackson Dart's falling. The Steelers at 21 could want to move up because they know the Saints are trying to move back. They know the Giants and the Browns, if they don't draft a quarterback, they're trying to move back. And the Steelers are probably the only team in the same position as the Saints to where it's like, I don't know what they're going to do week 1 with their quarterback situation. It's bad right now in Pittsburgh. You almost have to believe that they are mandated to draft a quarterback. So when you get to trading back into the first round, it's so tricky because you've got other teams that want to do the same. You've got other teams that are back there like the Rams, like the Steelers, who may want to move up and get their guy. So then you're kind of playing, you're gambling a little bit. When you had your pick in 9 and it's like, okay, if I believe in this guy this much, I don't want to gamble with him. I'm just going to take him.
So here's the thing. Here's my just kind of piggybacking on what you said. If the Saints bypass Shador at 9, I think they're okay. They're basically saying, look, we're probably not going to get him. If they don't get him at 9, we're probably not going to get him. I mean, look, he doesn't match the grade, but we realize that some teams are eventually going to come up and get him. We're probably not going to get him. Because moving up from 40 to 20 to get in front of Pittsburgh would cost a lot. Now, they have a prior relationship with Broncos head coach Sean Payton, but that's we went through the cost of what it could ultimately be. We're in agreement with not next year's first round. I want no part of that. I don't want. That is not how you build. That's not how you build. Now, if you want to go up from 40 to 34 and you throw another your second, 4th round pick in there, that's fine. But not next year's one. Not next year's
Especially
one.
when your roster looks how it looks right now.
I mean, it was easy to do that in 2011 because you were 13-3. But you saw what happened when they didn't have a first round pick. 2012, obviously Peyton was gone. They went 7-9. So to me, if we're playing the trade back in game, I think it's only for one player. I think it's for Jackson Dart because I don't think Shador's going to be available by the time they could afford to move back in.
Yeah.
And by bypassing Shador at 9, I think they're basically saying, look, it is what it is. We're just not going to draft him. We have another player graded higher.
I don't even know. I can't say for sure if Dart will be there,
Yeah.
honestly, because you see shocks at the quarterback position all the time. I mean, last year was the big shock at, I believe it was number 8 when Atlanta.
Is that Penix? Yeah.
Yeah, drafted Michael Penix, who, after signing Kirk Cousins to that huge 4-year deal. You know, Michael Penix was being mocked late first, second round, kind of in a similar, position as Jackson Dart is right now. Atlanta said at 8, that's our guy. We're going to get our guy. And, when I look at some of the teams around the league, whether they need a quarterback right now, like the Pittsburgh Steelers or the New Orleans Saints, whether you have your guy for the next year or two, but you need the heir apparent, the Los Angeles Rams, the Las Vegas Raiders, somebody like that, the New York Giants. There are teams that are going to, I'm sure the Saints aren't the only ones that could potentially be high on Jackson Dart. There are teams that could move up to Jackson Dart, and now you're the Saints, you're trying to trade back into the first, and all of a sudden, oh man, both of our guys are gone. Shador and Jackson Dart. Now you have to fall into a Tyler Shuck, a Jalen Milroe, a Will Howard, a Kyle McCord, a Quinn Ewers, or somebody like that.
See, and I think they're comfortable with that.
Right, which they may be okay with.
I looked all the work kind of points there that call it next tier of guys, those day 2, because it was like Cam Ward, who they went to the pro day with. I think that was a pretty clear indication that he was the number 1 guy. The skipping Shador's pro day still bothers me.
And he's having private workouts in Colorado right now, and I believe there were 3 teams that
maybe they had
came.
a meeting we don't know about, but that still bothers me that they didn't, because it still sticks out as to why I'm not convinced. And then obviously you have your next Jackson Dart is kind of right in the middle there, like that. Okay, first, second, and then you have these risers coming up, and there is no bigger riser right now than Tyler Shuck and Jalen Milroe, in my opinion. Jalen Milroe is invited to the draft,
Yeah.
so he could very well be the 4th quarterback taken as well.
He knows something that we don't know for sure, because nobody wants to be that guy at the draft. Like Lamar Jackson was laying his head down, being hugged by his mom because he fell further. Now, it worked for Lamar, but he fell further than he thought he would. Nobody wants to sit there for 4 hours in the green room. So I think he knows something that maybe we don't know.
What's interesting, you said something about, like, for instance, the Jets. They probably could use a quarterback, but they have Fields. The Raiders, they could probably draft a quarterback, but they have Geno. Who am I missing? The Rams, they could probably draft a quarterback, but they have Stafford. Saints, the rookie, will have a very, very good chance to start from day 1. So how comfortable are you if they had to roll with not a first-round pick, but a second-round pick as their starter?
It just depends who that second-round pick is. And now for me, I think the guy that you could potentially get in the first round is levels above the guys that you would get in the second. For me personally, I'm high enough on Shador Sanders to where I think there is a noticeable drop-off from Shador to Ewers to McCord to Milroe and all of those guys that you would pick there. Now, if you are not that high on Shador and you think it's maybe more like this, you don't think there's a big drop-off between Shador or even Jackson Dart and a Quinn Ewers or a Jalen Milroe, I can understand why somebody would say, okay, yeah, just take the biggest need, take a Will Johnson first round, and we'll wrap around to get Ewers. We'll wrap around to get Milroe, because they likely will be there.
Which brings me to my next point. If my prediction comes true and they draft a second-round pick, is he the favorite to beat out Spencer Rattler and the veteran?
I say yes.
I think so. I do. Because depending on who that is, unless it's Aaron Rodgers or a trade for like I don't see how they could pull this off, but let's just say the Browns drafted Shador. Would Kenny Pickett become available at that point? Yeah. Like a Kenny Pickett type? We're going to have a pod on potential trades, because the actual veteran free agency market at quarterback is horrible, but you probably would have to make a small trade of a veteran to ensure some kind of veteran presence in that quarterback room. But to me, second-round quarterback, whether it's Shuck, Jalen Milroe, whoever, Rattler, and unnamed veteran. I think there's a chance Rattler can win that competition realistically, but I also think whoever that second round pick is going to be Kellen Moore's guy, and I think that person would obviously have a kind of an inside track to winning that job as well.
If it was last year, I think that maybe Rattler can win it, because we saw how enamored Clint Kubiak was.
That was his guy,
Spencer Rattler, but Spencer Rattler is Clint Kubiak's guy. Jake Hayner is Pete Carmichael's guy. Kellen Moore has the opportunity to bring in his guy, somebody who, like you said, they did extensive research on, and they're very comfortable seemingly with that second tier of quarterback. So I think whoever that guy is, if he's drafted in the second round, definitely the first, but let's say the second, I think he's got a good chance to win that job. And I think the Saints are a rare team in that case, because I think there are only 2 teams in the NFL right now who, I mean, I guess 3 if you count whoever drafts Cam Ward, who has a strong chance of starting a rookie day one.
Right. Who else would start day one?
The Steelers, if they're able to get their guy.
But even that, like, you know, Tomlin's an old school coach, and they got Mason Rudolph, who's won games for them.
Yeah.
I could see that being a little transition for whomever that rookie ends up being. But fascinating times, man. All it takes is one news leak on a Friday, like last Friday, of a starting quarterback having a shoulder injury that could put him out for the season. And all of a sudden, it changes everything.
Yep.
It changes the whole outlook on everything. Like I said, if the Saints were picking, say, 19th, I think the urgency for a quarterback with the first round pick would be much higher. But because they're picking 9, they want to make sure they get a top 10 player on their board.
Right.
That's where I've ultimately settled in on this.
And unfortunately, it's not a deep quarter. It's not as deep of a class as last year, where they had 5 guys picked in the top 13.
6, right?
Yeah.
Quarterbacks.
6.
Yeah, it was 6.
6.
Crazy. We may never see that again. All right. Hope y'all enjoyed that. Hope y'all have a great Easter weekend. Enjoy the crawfish boils, the Easter egg hunts, whatever y'all are doing. So enjoy that. We'll be back on Monday. Busy week next week. Be sure to follow us to let us know to know where we're at. And
that mock draft coming next week,
mock draft Monday. Look for it. So check it out. All right. For Andre Johnson Jr., I am Sean Fazende. We'll catch you guys next time on Overtime. Happy Easter, everyone.